We are moving to this story about the state of Ohio suing Norfolk Southern, and rightfully so. I'm going to show you this. Actually, this is a screenshot. I'm going to show you this screenshot here from Case Study QB first. And then I have a couple of clips to show you because we did talk about the symptoms that people are experiencing in East Palestine, but those symptoms have actually gotten worse. So we're going to get into that as well. But shout out to Case Study QB for this. Case is always on it. You can always count on Case. It says Ohio sues Norfolk Southern. They want them to do this: pay for full cleanup of accident, pay for all environmental damages, company to pay for groundwater and soil monitoring for years to come, and compensation for economic losses in East Palestine and other areas. There's a couple of things I would add to this. The big one, give everybody in East Palestine, Ohio, Medicare for all. Everybody in the, they can use the same excuse that Libby, Montana actually used. Well, Libby, Montana, it was asbestos. But with East Palestine, Ohio, obviously, this was the hazardous waste that was dumped because of the train derailment. So I would say give everyone healthcare, free healthcare in East Palestine, Ohio, just like Obama did actually for Libby, Montana. And then 2, cover everyone's medical bills because this is not their fault, right? And then 3, and this one would be costly, but I think the people there deserve it. All of these people in this community now that own homes, their homes have decreased in value because of the chemical spill, which means their houses are probably worth nothing now. So what they should do is go back and see what their homes were worth before the train derailment happened, and all those people should be compensated. Now, I know that's a lot of money, but when I show you what's happening to people there, I think you'll understand why I'm asking for the things that I'm asking for. So I definitely agree with the lawsuit, but I do think they should ask for more than what they're asking for. So here is the Ohio Attorney General announcing the lawsuit. Listen to this.
This afternoon in Federal District Court for the Northern District of Ohio, the state of Ohio has sued Norfolk and Southern over the February 3rd derailment and subsequent toxic spill that occurred near the village, in the village of East Palestine. This is a 53 count complaint, 106 pages, and looks to hold Norfolk and Southern responsible for their actions. The train derailment caused the release of over 1 million gallons of hazardous chemicals. And it endangered both the health and area residents of the area residents and Ohio's natural resources.
I just want to pause here for just a second. I have been a little bit behind on the other train derailments. I'll try to get up to speed on those by next week. But there was another train derailment in Arizona today. It's been like honestly, YepX, yes, you've actually kept me up to date on this on Twitter. It seems like every morning I wake up, there's another one. They've been happening across the country, you guys, not just Ohio. There was also another one in Ohio near Cleveland. So I'm going to have to go through that thread to go back to all the other ones because there have been multiple ones since this incident happened. So we got to keep up on these things.
Among the things we note in the complaint are Norfolk and Southern's escalating accident rate. It's up 80% over 10 years. And that's a concerning number. At least 20 Norfolk and Southern derailments since 2015 have included chemical spills. This derailment was entirely avoidable. And I'm concerned that Norfolk and Southern may be putting profits for their own company above the health and safety of the cities and communities that they operate in. We're seeking injunctive relief civil penalties, costs, damages, court costs, and maybe more importantly, a declaratory judgment that Norfolk Southern is responsible. We're looking for recovery of costs and damages under CERCLA and Ohio law for our emergency responses, and payment of damages under the common law for our natural resources, property damage, and economic harm to the state and to its residents.
And they can afford it. One of the shareholders for Norfolk Southern is BlackRock. This company can't afford to pay all of that, all of it.
We're looking for repayment of costs under common law, including present and future costs incurred by the state in responding to the emergency, providing public services, and preventing future harm to the environment and public health, restoring natural resources, and abating the nuisance. Of course, civil penalties are available under statute, and we're also seeking repayment of court costs.
Okay. But like I said, you guys, those homes are worth nothing now. Like, it's just anytime you have like an environmental disaster like this, these homes are worth nothing. So these people, like, their property, like where is their wealth, right? If they wanted to sell their home a year from now, they probably wouldn't be able to. Like, these homes are, it's nothing, nothing. The water is poisoned. The air is apparently still poisoned. I'm gonna show you some symptoms in just a second. And I think that there's just no excuse. And I want to remind you, the president still has not been to East Palestine, Ohio. This is like a joke. None of these cities where these train derailments have happened with carrying hazardous waste, the president has not been there. This is not okay. And I don't care if this is a district that voted for Trump. That's besides the point. People don't deserve to suffer and to deal with these symptoms because Norfolk Southern wanted to cut back labor to save money. And that's what this really is about. I've talked to the railroad workers on here twice, actually 3 times technically if you count worker strike back, because I interviewed 2 of them there. They've all said the same thing. This has been a problem going back to the 80s, is what they told me. So I want you to hear about some of the new symptoms that are happening in East Palestine, Ohio. We've talked about the headaches. We've talked about the constant like runny nose. Some people feeling like their eyes are burning. We've talked about that, but it gets worse.
I got a neighbor, and right now he's puking blood because he works right there in the main part of it.
People are going back to work because they have to.
They need that money.
See, this is how it works in a capitalist system. Even people who are sick. So one of the symptoms now is people are puking blood. That is never good. So how do you fix this? And those people who have symptoms, they're still going back to work because, like he just said, they need money. Isn't that sad? Let's go on.
I like these big boys in Norfolk. They're sitting behind a desk or sitting at home, kicked back in their chair, enjoying themselves. Because they got money coming in.
Yep.
Do they care about us? No, they don't even care about their own employees.
Nope.
Sometimes a disaster is so overwhelming that it shocks people out of their political corners and brings really big problems into focus. That's what it's like in East Palestine. I grew up in this county. I lived 2 counties south on Route 7. The last time I was in East Palestine was for the Sweethearts Dance in 2007. I came back to find out what happened when a nearly 2-mile-long Norfolk Southern train carrying hazardous chemicals derailed and was detonated in spectacular fashion on the edge of town. We've been here for over a week. We've seen national figures and camera crews come and go, but what gets lost in so much of that coverage is that the people here still have a ton of unanswered questions. How safe is the air and water really? Who, if anyone, has the juice to square up with a $55 billion company that treats disasters as the cost of doing business? And will anyone step up to lead this time?
Do I have to wait until I have cancer or my kids are sick before you guys are going to do anything?
Nice to meet you guys.
Yeah. Care
I-
to do an interview?
Yeah, I'll do one. My name is Luke Glavin. I live a couple blocks from here on Alice Street. We're in East Palestine, pretty much right ground zero for where the train derailed. Friday night, my wife and I were playing Call of Duty, and we heard some banging around, and we didn't know what the heck it was, so we paused it. You know, we come out here, and it was a spectacle, really. I kept telling my wife, "Oh my God, this is big. This is bigger than we're going to even ever imagine."
The train derailed on the edge of town late at night on February 3rd. 5 cars were carrying toxic vinyl chloride. Left alone, the damaged cars would have gone off like a bomb. So officials on the scene did what's being called a controlled release. A mushroom cloud of toxic chemicals filled the sky, stretching out for miles.
It was like hundreds of miles, like that shit was out there. And I was just silent for a moment. That feeling, you know, when people are gonna suffer or you know, something's horribly wrong with this.
2 days later, government and company-sponsored tests declared the air and water safe, and a mandatory evacuation order for residents in a 1-mile radius of the derailment was lifted. Minutes later, the trains were back on the tracks. And in the days and weeks since, residents have gotten very few answers to their many questions. So Luke, walk us through what communication has been like of really important information after this derailment.
I'm going to give you the shortest answer possible. There isn't any. I mean, really, from Norfolk anyways. You're a multi-billion-dollar corporation, and they can't even give you the answers to some simple questions that even a little bit of research on Google can give you.
They're not.
That's 100% true. All you have to do is Google it, and Google will tell you, well, they cut back regulations. They tried to save money. There's supposed to be at least 2 engineers on those trains. They cut back and made it just 1. You know, this could have been completely avoidable. And I really do feel like because of where it happened, I feel like the administration in charge right now just does not care. Because I feel like if this did happen in, like, say, Philly, I feel like Biden would have been there. So that's where we are now. That's what I meant when I was, you know, talking to Matt earlier about partisan politics. This is where we are now.
Talking, they're trying to protect themselves, so.
Yep.
I mean, but they need to at least let us know what's going on, you know.
Norfolk Southern has been carrying out most of the major operations since the disaster, hiring contractors for the cleanup, the testing, everything.
When they did the test, I was actually crying as the team walked through my house because I said, there's no way in hell I'm the only one smelling this right now.
I noticed the smell right away. I can smell a cleaner smell.
They said they didn't smell anything at all.
So you've had a test at your home. Who did that test?
That was CTEC. That was the Center for Toxicology and Environmental Health, the company that Norfolk contracted with.
It turns out the initial testing used to justify the claim that East Palestine's water supply was secure was conducted by a third-party contractor hired by Norfolk Southern in a way that didn't comply with the EPA's own testing standard.
You never let the company that poisoned you hire the people to come and test for chemicals. It's like, I saw a movie about this one time where the company brought in their own lawyers. Yeah, it's like, you never let that happen. Never. Of course, the residents, like, this isn't their fault, but that should have never happened. You never let that company who poisoned you get the EPA inspectors. You just can't trust it because, of course, like, they're not going to report everything. They're going to try to cover their ass. That's just how it is.
It begs the question of why the company that caused this disaster was ever charged with handling the response in the first place.
Why the fuck would you let Norfolk do that? Like, why would you let them clean up their own mess?
There you go.
They have every reason to just cover it up.
This is the only thing that I've received from Norfolk so far. This is just a little pamphlet just telling us about what they've done. 3,150 cubic yards of contaminated soil and 942,000 gallons of contaminated water. And that's been the narrative since this started was, guys, it's okay. You know, we've got this. We're cleaning it up.
We've made a lot of progress on environmental remediation. We've dug up 4,600 cubic yards of soil and collected 1.7 million gallons of water.
We got the wildlife officers out there every day checking our creeks. Everything's dead. Nothing comes around. We used to have birds. We used to have all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Just remember, the company is always going to protect itself. And that includes some of the employees. Now, some of the employees are speaking out, but for the most part, like that gentleman, he's the CEO. Of course, he's going to protect the company. The company is not going to say, yeah, we totally messed up. This is all our fault. Da, 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 da. They're going to try to make sure that they protect themselves, not the people.
Water that's bothering her, or is it something else? She's not manufacturing. She's sick. I've had her at the emergency room 3 times.
I'm being exposed to something in my house. The doctor diagnosed me with contact dermatitis due to chemical exposure.
I try to walk like 3 feet into my house. I start feeling like I'm literally about to black out. We're not dumb. They think they can just throw a bunch of science words around and then just expect us not to question it. I just really like to know what exactly they're doing at this point in Norfolk.
Props for the Queen shirt, by the way. I love Queen. Props for the Queen shirt. But yeah, these things that they're talking about, these are the things that are happening that you can see happening on the outside. Like the person who said they were coughing, their friend was coughing up blood. That's something that you can see on the outside. What we're not seeing so far is what's happening to the inside of their body. What happened to their lungs? What happened to their stomach? What happened to their liver? What happened to their intestines? See, these are the things that we need to see. And so for the people who have been admitted to the emergency room multiple times, the doctors should be checking for internal damage as well. Sometimes when you have these conditions that surface on the outside, like the one that was mentioned, the contact dermatitis, sometimes that can be a sign of something that is going on inside of your body. So it's important that they should be checking them for that. I sincerely hope they've all had scans, like a lung scan, or I don't know. I don't know, what the medical facilities are like there, but there could be intestinal damage. Let's go on.
Personally, I'd like to know why people are getting sick with CDC symptoms and why they're just not taking that seriously. I mean, they match the symptoms identically, and they're still like, oh, those are unrelated.
So we are in the press box of the East Palestine High School auditorium, the last of a 3-day event with national political figures coming through here, the first being Trump, the second being Pete Buttigieg, and now Aaron Brockovich.
I can't tell you how many communities feel that these moments are the biggest gaslight of their life because you experienced it. You have symptoms. But you're going to be told it's safe. You're going to be told not to worry. Well, that's just rubbish.
And they're going to tell you that so you can get back to work. That's why they're going to tell you that it's safe. Oh, yeah, it's safe. Come on back. Get back to work. We need the labor. JB says, what about the developing brain of children? That's a good question. It's a good question.
This is all happening as the Environmental Protection Agency takes over the next phase of the cleanup process. In practice, that means that Norfolk is still leading the day-to-day operations, while the EPA monitors their progress. But the EPA plans to use its powers to force Norfolk to foot the entire bill for the cleanup. And if the company fails to finish the job, the EPA will do it themselves and invoice Norfolk for 3 times the original cost.
I want you all to know that we are holding Norfolk Southern accountable for putting this community in harm's way.
The EPA has a spotty track record of showing up, rushing to say everything's fine, then leaving people without the support they really need. We saw it in Flint, and we're already seeing some signs that it might be happening here. Recently, the EPA said that their own testing shared that the air and water near the crash was completely safe. But Texas A&M researchers, using the same data, found elevated levels of 9 pollutants that could be linked to serious long-term health risks. For residents, all of this can feel like a repeat of how Norfolk Southern has been handling the response in the last few weeks.
That's right. So even for people who may not have symptoms now, that doesn't mean they may not have issues 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 1 year from now. Like those chemicals can just linger and cause problems later on. This is why I say like the company should pay them full damages immediately. There should be no, well, we're just going to try to pay for the cleanup damage. If you are suing the company, if the state is suing the company, you get everything that you can out of them while you can. Because they are really ruining people's lives here. Like this is their health. Everything out of them while you can. And if that means, and it's sad, I'm pretty sure Most of the people there don't want to move. It's their community, especially if they grew up there. They don't want to have to leave their community. But if they feel unsafe and they want to be able to move, moving costs money, they should be given. This is why I said they all need to be given checks. All of them. They should be given money to be able to move if need be. Because like I said, these houses are worth nothing now. No one is trying to go there and live in East Palestine now.
The fact that they gave Norfolk that entire responsibility was just beyond me. I just don't know. I hope the EPA can make it right, but I did talk to several federal EPA people already that didn't know. They just didn't know.
Which I think they should have just been blatantly honest with us, you know?
They should have been blatantly honest, but you know they're going to try to cover their tracks. Mary brought up a good point here. They're not. It's like when George Bush dropped the ball with Hurricane Katrina. Exactly. So we've seen how the presidents have responded before in these types of events. Now, with Hurricane Katrina, at some point, they did relocate them. I know there were people that came to Columbia. This was when I was at University of South Carolina. There were people that came to Columbia, South Carolina that were from New Orleans. They were relocated because of Hurricane Katrina. But I feel like this town is being completely ignored by the presidency. Like he doesn't even care. It just nothing. I'll play a little bit more and then
should have just come right out in the beginning and said, hey man, this could be a while. You know, hold on because you don't know what's gonna happen.
And that's the uncomfortable truth. No one really knows what the long-term health effects of all of this will be.
When you burn vinyl chloride, it forms dioxins, which are itself their own very hazardous form of chemical and are very, very persistent over long periods of time.
That's Emily Jeffers. She's a senior attorney at the Center for Biological Diversity. We asked her about the EPA stepping in and what they can realistically promise residents.
What are the full costs and how long will it take us to know what they really are?
That's a good question because no one knows. It's going to be years and years and years before we really understand the full costs. A lot of these cancers don't manifest themselves right away, so the harms that folks might see is not going to be readily apparent. The best case scenario is that Norfolk Southern pays a ton of money to these folks.
They owe us property value. They owe us our health. They owe us 5-10 years from now when things are going on.
I just don't know.
That's what I was saying. They need to pay them for all of that.
How these people can't have any type of like sympathy. Bust out the checkbook, man, and start paying people to clean this shit up the right way.
So this is important for people to know. I did want to say that, like, next time it could be you. Next time it could be your neighborhood. Just told you another one happened in Arizona today. So right now it's East Palestine, Ohio, and a couple other places, but next time it could be you. Tristy says, spot on, Sabby. This is not amount of money that can make up for this bankrupt them. No amount of money that can make up this bankrupt. No, it just isn't at this point. Dwayne, there was one in Washington State too, Sabby. So that's another one I didn't know about.